My mother-in-law kept snooping around our house every time she came over for dinner. So my husband and I printed fake divorce papers that made it look like I was taking all of her son's money. She fell for it and completely exploded in front of the whole family. For context, my husband and I have been together for the past 4 years. We've been living together for the past 2 years and married for 1. Our relationship is pretty smooth, but the only problem is that my mother-in-law doesn't really like me much. Honestly, though, she doesn't seem to like anybody that much, so we've made our peace with it. We are cordial with her. We invited her over for dinner and events, and she does the same, but we don't have a deeper relationship. And then a couple of months ago, my father-in-law passed away. We lost him to a heart attack. It was pretty unexpected, and it really did soften me up towards my mother-in-law because I was pretty young when I lost my dad. And I know what that kind of thing does to families, especially with my mom. I know how difficult it was for her after my dad passed on, so I made an effort to be kinder to her. We decided to start inviting her over for dinner every alternate weekend, and I could tell that she was grateful for that, at least in the beginning. After that, I don't know why, but she started snooping throughout our house, and we did take some time to figure it out. But after a while, we were pretty sure that that's exactly what she was doing. Every time, either before dinner or after, she would excuse herself to go to the bathroom, and she would take some time, but we never thought much of it. But then she started finding out things that we had never told her, and she started asking us about it. And whenever we tried to confront her about how she had found out, she would tell me that she had just guessed. We were not fools, though, because we knew that it was impossible to get lucky so often with her guesses and have them be absolutely correct. For instance, a couple of weeks ago, she found out somehow that my husband was considering a merger with another company, and she was against that kind of thing because she believed that it would show some kind of weakness, and she did not want that to be the legacy of the company that my father-in-law had built. So she confronted my husband about it, and we were baffled as to how she even found out because neither of us had told her. We knew that she would not take it well, so we were planning on breaking the news to her gently. However, she found out, and that was that, and they had a bit of a fight about it. And eventually, my husband had to give in and shove his plans because his mother threw such a tantrum, and also because his father's passing was so recent. He did not want to upset her more. But for the life of us, we couldn't figure out how she even knew about it. And then just 2 weeks back after dinner, she confronted me about my plans to freeze my eggs. She just brought it up very casually, even though I had literally never spoken about the kind of thing with anybody apart from my husband. And when I asked her how she knew, she told me that she just got lucky with her. And then she started lecturing me about how bad it was for me, which were just her personal feelings that are not backed up by facts. And she started telling me that I'm young, and that instead of doing all of this, I should just start trying and focus more on my family instead of spending all day at work, because that way things will be much better for all of us, and I won't have to end up freezing my eggs and spend a ton of money on that. Now, after that, I was obviously pretty annoyed because somehow she was finding out about things that she had no way of knowing. And by then, we had put 2 and 2 together, and we knew that she was snooping every time she came over. It wasn't hard to figure out because our home office is the room opposite our bathroom. So we figured that she must either be lying to us about going to the bathroom or maybe she would just take a couple of extra minutes and snoop through our papers. The plans for the merger were in the office, and I had a couple of tabs open on my laptop that also happened to be in the office related to freezing my eggs, where I was doing my proper research right before my mother-in-law showed up for dinner that day. These were the major things that led us to figure out what was actually going on. But apart from this too, there were a couple of smaller incidents that are not worth mentioning, but did tip us off. So after dinner 2 weeks ago, once my mother-in-law had left after lecturing me about the importance of family values, especially when we are young, I really lost it. I told my husband that I couldn't do this anymore, that I had tried my best to be a little more compassionate towards her, even though she had always made very clear that she did not like me. But now she was really overstepping her boundaries, and I thought that maybe we would have to cut down on the dinners together because this was getting out of hand. Of course, if we accused her of snooping, then she would deny it and somehow play the victim. So, we knew that there was no point in confronting her. And my husband agreed that she was overstepping, and something had to be done about this. We spent a couple of days being very upset about all of this. But then it was actually my husband who came up with this plan, and it was really brilliant, because this was totally going to prove that she had been snooping through our stuff. So we decided to get a fake divorce petition printed, and we made sure that it looked real enough to convince somebody. And we made the terms of the petition very unfair for my husband. Both of us got a huge kick out of it, because it was very funny since we made the terms of the petition seem like I was out to get all the property that belongs to him and his family. I knew that this would really make my mother-in-law mad, because she already didn't like the fact that her son had married somebody who came from a less privileged family background compared to theirs. I mean, I'm not saying that I grew up poor or anything. I grew up normally, but it's nothing compared to my husband and his family. However, he's not arrogant about it, unlike his mother. So anyway, we knew that this was going to set her off, and our plan actually worked, because a couple of days ago we invited her over for dinner. But this time, we invited a couple of other people from the family as well. We made it a proper family dinner with my sister-in-law and her husband and kids, and my husband's uncle and aunt. I get along well enough with them, and we were having a good time after dinner when, as usual, my mother-in-law excused herself to go to the bathroom. But this time she didn't come back for almost 10 minutes. We thought that that was a bit unusual, and a couple of people even offered to go check on her. But we said that it was all right because we knew what was about to come. And just as we had expected, a couple of minutes later, my mother-in-law stormed into the living room with the papers that we had left for her to find in one of the drawers in the office, waving it angrily and screaming at me. She started cursing me out, saying that I had turned out to be exactly the kind of person she expected me to be. And she should have never allowed her son to get married to somebody like me, because she should have known that I would look for the first opportunity to screw up their lives. And that's exactly what I was doing. Obviously, my husband and I were not surprised about any of this, but everyone else was very confused and tried to ask her what was going on. And so she told them that she had found these divorce papers in the office, and started telling everyone that I had filed for the divorce and according to the terms of my petition. I was coming after everything that they owned, all their property and even their company, even though my husband had been nothing but nice to me. And I knew for a fact that I was not entitled to any of this. She said that I had probably been waiting for an opportunity like this after the passing of my father-in-law. And since this was the perfect time to strike, I had started to show my true colors. And she called me a gold digger, a snake, and said that she wished nothing but the most awful things for me. My husband and I kept our cool. We didn't say anything, and I didn't lose my temper because we had all seen this coming. We calmly and quietly waited for her to finish her rant, while everyone else looked completely confused. Once she finally seemed to run out of steam, we told her the truth, that this was a trap we had set and that she had clearly fallen for it. I told her that my husband and I were the ones who printed those papers and left them there, because we knew this situation was coming. I also told her how foolish it was to assume that even if I were filing for divorce, I would keep divorce papers in the same home office that both my husband and I use regularly. At that point, she looked confused and flipped through the papers again. That's when she finally realized she had been played. I explained that we did all of this to prove that she had been snooping every time she came over. We also made sure to have family present when she threw this tantrum so that everyone could see what kind of person she really was and how deeply she disliked me, despite the fact that I had done nothing wrong and had genuinely tried to be kind to her over the past few months. She was not grateful at all. She was incredibly selfish and unable to see any good in others. We then told her that after everything she had said, there was no way we would allow her to remain involved in our lives. We made it clear that we were done after this level of disrespect. She immediately started crying and said she had been tricked, which was true. But the truth only came out because of that, and after everything that happened, we didn't want anything to do with her anymore. The dinner ended on a bitter note, and everyone else chose not to talk about it. However, my mother-in-law has been going out of her way to gain sympathy from anyone who will listen. By now, almost the entire family knows what happened that night. Some people sympathize with her, while others have messaged us saying we did the right thing. Everyone seems to have an opinion, but honestly, we don't care. What we do notice is that she has taken this very hard. She has been texting and calling my husband repeatedly, telling him that I am a malicious daughter-in-law who has turned him against her. She claims that I am brainwashing him and that I will eventually destroy the family. According to her, I am a horrible person for doing this, especially since she lost her husband only a few months ago, and she insists she was only snooping because she was trying to look out for her son like any mother would. The truth is, even though the idea was my husband's, I went along with it. The only thing I feel guilty about is that we did this only a couple of months after her husband passed away. I know she was deeply shattered by that loss, and that is the only thing that weighs on my conscience. I don't feel bad about anything else. So I wonder whether I should apologize, only for putting her in this situation so soon after her husband's death, and nothing more. Edit, the reason my husband hasn't blocked his mother is because she is elderly, and he doesn't want to regret it if something were to happen to her. We think it's a valid reason to stay reachable for emergencies, even though she has been horrible to us recently, and we want no contact at the moment. Update, it has been 6 days since my last update, and we no longer feel guilty. If she hadn't snooped, none of this would have happened. She could have waited for us to share any news ourselves. There was also no reason for her to create such a scene at a family dinner. If she was so concerned, she could have confronted us privately. Instead, she immediately assumed the worst, publicly confronted me, tried to humiliate me, and said truly awful things. Because of that, I don't believe I need to feel bad about what I did. My mother-in-law's husband passed away recently, which is sad, but it does not excuse her behavior. She chose to gossip about the situation to gain sympathy, which only pushed us further away. Some family members supported us and said we did the right thing, while others chose not to get involved, which we respect. A few older relatives took her side and tried to pressure us into apologizing, but we stood our ground. Despite everything, my husband and I supported each other, and that was enough. A couple of weeks later, she sent my husband a very hurtful email blaming me, accusing me of using him for money and status. My husband then told her that the plan had actually been his idea, not mine. Instead of understanding, she still blamed me and claimed I had turned him against her. This was the final straw, and my husband decided to block her. The next day, she showed up at our house and started yelling at my husband, accusing me of manipulating him and demanding that he cut me out of his life. When I tried to speak, she invaded my personal space and behaved aggressively. My husband stepped in to protect me and asked her to leave. She cried, broke a glass in anger, and finally left after he threatened to call the police. After that, we cut off all contact with her and felt relieved. Recently, my husband and I found out that I am pregnant, which made us very happy. We shared the news online, and while most people congratulated us, my mother-in-law created a new email account to send another negative message. She said my husband would soon see my real face and wished him luck. With that message, she made it clear she wants no relationship with us or our child. Despite her words, we are happy and moving forward with our lives.